Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another episode of GenAI Vlog. So recently we heard about yet another news from Nvidia. They released this new model. It's called Llama 3.1 Nemotron or Nemotron. Not really sure how you pronounce that, but that's how it's spelled. And it's 70 billion parameters. It's an instruction train. So let's click in there and then let's take a look what's going on. So this is still in preview stage. So I'm assuming this is LA, not really general availability. And the good thing is there's a couple of APIs here that we can test it out, right? Just Python, Node.js, Shell, things like that. So in this episode, we're gonna try to see what we can build using this API as well as the API key. So with that being said, let's just grab this entire thing and then let's go to Jupyter Python notebook. I already grabbed the API and then I already entered the API key in here. So I'm just going to take this text and let's ask a couple of questions. So for example, we can come in here and we can say, what is 1 plus 1? And of course, it's going to give you some answer. Say easy peasy answer is 1 plus 1 is 2. Great. So now that we know that this API works and that the API is successful, what we're gonna have to do here is build some sort of user interface around this API so that this is not in a notebook environment and we actually have a web browser. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come to Hugging Face and already build a space. This is a Hugging Face space. What that means is it's an app that can be supported using Python, radio, Streamlit application, things like that. So let's go to files. Let's see what's required as dependency. Of course, we need OpenAI because it's calling their endpoint. So that's one of the requirements. Now let's go to the main app. Let's take a look at the code. So in the main app, as you can see here, we have a client. My client is essentially using OpenAI package, but make sure that the base URL is pointing to NVIDIA's API, right? We're not calling OpenAI GPT or whatever, right? We're calling the model from an NVIDIA endpoint. Now, of course, what that means is you're going to have your secrets management, right? There needs to be an API key somewhere in here, which is what I'm highlighting right now. So that's the basics. You have your client, and once you have a client, you can build a user interface. So here I have a sidebar, have a couple of instructions, footnote, things like that. And then here in the main chatbot area, this is what that is. So I have prompt. If user enter prompt, then let's append a message. And then let's call the client. So while this client is being called, I have a spinner to tell the user that, hey, look, this is waiting and you're going to have to be patient about it. And the reason I did this is because A, this max token is 1024, so it writes a lot of stuff. And B, this API, it's from Nvidia. Obviously, we're going to cut them some slack, right? Because they're a hardware company, they're moving into the cloud space, and we can't really hold them accountable if their API doesn't work. So a little bit of the engineer there just to make sure this UI is user-friendly. And then after that, I actually have to take the chunks of the response and then actually have to join them together. I thought that was an interesting design right there. If you call GPT endpoint, they're just going to give you a giant JSON file with an answer already in there. But this endpoint, I actually have to take the chunks and append them myself. I thought that was interesting, something unique to bring up. And again, this is a hardware company that is just moving into cloud space. So with that being said, that's really the code right there. Nothing else is really fancy that need to be mentioned. That's pretty much it. So you go to the app, you render it, and here we go. This is the user interface. Now you can talk to her. For example, what is the next 12 months forecast of interest rate? And then you're gonna have to wait for it because what it's doing in the back end is actually trying to write a freaking essay. So I think it's kind of like a long answer for a short question. But hey, that's how you train your model, no problem there. That's a preference. So you see this giant answer that I thought is actually pretty good. If you ask any undergraduate student, they're probably not going to give you this answer. If you ask a graduate student with some experience, they might be able to write something like this in a pretty short amount of time, which is actually raising the bar pretty high. So I will say this answer doesn't look that bad. It's actually a pretty decent answer, just simply considering that this is a language model. So if it has all of that information in its head, and it's up to date to 2023, I would probably say it looks pretty good. So with that being said, thank you for watching, subscribe and like.